Happy New Year, y'all, and welcome to the Busy Girls Book Club. We are rounding out this new year. It's 2025. I can't frickin' believe it. I'm so glad. And we are going to be looking back on 2024 and all of our podcast books, non-podcast books, and kind of looking to wrap up the 2024 year with our Busy Girl Book Club Awards. So we're going to give you the best of the best, the worst of the worst, and tell you what we thought of 2024 in our reading journeys. I'm Catherine.
I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Casey. And we have, honestly, what is my favorite episode of the year to do, our year-end wrap-up, where we give out a lot of awards. So we are going to talk about all the books that we read this year and what we thought of them. We do a top 5. We do, least hyped, most hyped, appropriately hyped games and all that stuff. And yeah, just kind of get into our past year in books and what we're looking forward to next year. So we have some questions and discussions up first. Our first one, we were just talking about off podcast, but how many books did y'all read this year? And what was your goal?
Well, Caitlin will make us look better. So let's start with her.
My goal was 60 books. Last year, I read 77 books. As of recording this, I've read 74 books. So didn't match last year, but did beat my goal. And I can say I read most of those. And there was one month I read 13 books. So it definitely comes and goes.
Yeah, it's been a chaotic year for reading. I only have read 50 books this year. My goal was 55. So I have not reached my goal yet. We're recording this in December, so maybe I'll eke out a couple of books in the last week of the year. We'll see. Follow me on Goodreads to find out.
Well, I think I only read 40 books this year. Because a few books we did for the podcast I had already read.
I was gonna say we had 43 podcasts.
I think it might actually be 45. I think I miscounted, but I'm definitely less than 50 this year, which is the least amount I've read in a long time. But that's life. I don't know. I just didn't read as much as I normally do. I started a new job and moved to DC, and so sometimes you don't read that much, but still a great year in books.
Well, we finally have a whole year of Casey on Goodreads, so we can all look at our Goodreads stats. Let's talk about Goodreads. What did you learn from your year in review?
Yeah,
oh, you go, Catherine.
No, let's have Casey go because she's the newbie to Goodreads.
Well, I was gonna say I don't think I got a year in review because I don't put the date of when I start and stop a book, so I don't get any data back.
Travesty.
Sorry, so I cannot answer any of these questions, but
it should be in your notifications.
Yeah, so mine says I read over 30,000 pages. And the shortest book I read was Cruel Winter with You, which is Ali Hazelwood's Christmas novella. There's a series of 5 of them that some romance authors wrote. And then my longest book was one of the Zodiac Academy books at 886 pages. I only read those when I'm real bored. Haven't read one in months, but I was on a kick for a bit there. My average book length is just over 400 pages. The most popular book I read that everyone else on Goodreads reads is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. And then the least shelved one I read, which might be the same for both of you, is we had guest author Bethany Finger on our podcast, and her YA fantasy More Than Life is still in its early stages of gaining some traction, so that was the least shelved one. I average a 3.8 star rating. And the highest rated book that I read that's overall on Goodreads highest rated on my shelf is Kristen Hanna's The Women.
Yeah, we have a lot of similar. More Than Life is also the lowest shelved one for me, and the highest rated Goodreads book was The Women. But my average rating for 2024 was 4.1, so I was very generous this year.
Wow, I'm surprised yours was higher than mine.
I know.
I've been trying to be more stingy with my like 5 stars, and I look back and I'm like, I still wasn't stingy enough.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't think I was stingy enough either. And also Goodreads. I have a gripe with Goodreads in that you can only give full stars and not halves, because I'm definitely more in the middle for a lot of things, because I give a lot of books 3 stars that they're not all equal. That's for sure.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
But my most shelf book was actually Song of Achilles this year. So I finished that this year. And then my average book length is 408 pages, which definitely makes sense. That tracks. But the shortest book I read was Open Water, which we read for this podcast, which was only 155 pages. And my longest book, no surprise here, SJM House of Flame and Shadow at 835.
Yep. Well, I actually want to go over a question before we get into the rest of our stuff. But like, what is like, can you guys just go through and list every single book you gave 5 stars this year?
I think let me sort my list on Goodreads. Actually, no, I wrote them down, so I can do that.
You go first while I compile then.
I've been trying to book journal this year, and so I do have a section where I wrote down my 5-star favorites. And this is where I say I maybe wasn't stingy enough with my 5 stars, because a lot of them get 5 stars for different reasons. Mm-hmm. You're going to be offended. It's more than you would think. So, Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, Counting the Cost, which is Jill Duggar's memoir, Legendary, The Will of the Many, Bride, Becoming Michelle Obama's memoir, People We Meet on Vacation, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, Yellowface, Dress for the Summer, Demon Copperhead, Book Lovers, 7 Days in June, and The Games Gods Play. And I wrote Legendary, but I think that was supposed to be Caraval.
Interesting.
Oh, you've read Caraval.
I've read the first 2.
Okay.
I think it was Caraval, not Legendary. They're like, that's books 1 and 2. Caraval is book 1. I think that was 5 stars. I wrote the wrong one down, but.
Wow. I will say, have been considering that for the podcast, because I think that's gotten a lot of hype recently.
I think we need to go to Phantasma, which is the grown-up version.
Oh.
Haven't read it yet. Plan to.
All right. Okay, you want to go?
Yeah. So I started off the year with 5 stars at Ruthless Vows. And then I reread the Percy Jackson series late last year into this year. So the last...
stars, all of them.
Yeah. I gave 5 stars to The Last Olympian because I didn't really like the Battle of the Labyrinth as much, so I gave it 4. So Last Olympian gave it 5. Then The Assassin's Blade I reread and gave it 5. Immortal Longings I gave 5. And then Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Worlds gave 5. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes I gave 5. Yellowface, Funny Story, Demon Copperhead, Song of Achilles, Witch's Heart, The Future, Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, Vampires of El Norte, 7 Days in June, James, Year of Wonders, When the Moon Hatched, Chain Gang All-Stars, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and that's it.
Wow. I like very strongly believe that if you put all your 5-star reads together, that's like your reading personality.
Oh my God, I'm a schizophrenic.
Yeah, I'm schizophrenic as well.
Okay, well, let's
hear your personality.
Yeah. The 5th season. Yikes. The 5th season, James, Butcher and Blackbird, Chain Gang All-Stars, The Future, Demon Copperhead, and Queen of Shadows. I think that's
real dark, book. Casey.
Yeah.
That's real dark.
I think Queen of Shadows is the first book that I finished in January. So, yeah. kind of a wild list.
Yeah. That's quite the
It's a nice
list.
little personality snippet for all of us.
Okay.
Well, here's a fun question that's been a big book talk discussion. Everyone uses Goodreads. Obviously, we all just read some Goodreads stuff to you, but Amazon owns Goodreads, and also sometimes the app is really glitchy. So it's seen some competitors that are really gaining some ground. Storygraph, which I also use, and gives you way more like data analytics stuff, which I love, but none of my friends are on it. And then Fable, which I've dabbled in this year, and it had a 10 times better wrapped like year in review thing. Fable's coming. So are you guys gonna stick to Goodreads, move, use multiple?
I
You want to
don't
keep
have
giving Jeff Bezos your business?
Oh my goodness. I don't have the time to do multiple. Like, just gonna put that out there. The only reason why I'm still on Goodreads is because I have cultivated and curated my friends list. So I see all of what they're reading, and that's how I find books even that are popular and stuff like that. If I could cultivate that much friendship on Fable, I would. Storygraph, I find a little glitchy. Like, I find that it can be a little hard to follow and hard to input books. But I've liked Fable when I've tested it out. So I would consider moving to Fable if other people joined me besides Caitlin.
Yeah, so I actually really hate the Goodreads app and I would love to do something else. I think I will try, maybe, don't hold me to it. I can be really lazy about that kind of thing. But I've been thinking about trying both Storygraph and Fable and seeing which one I like more and then just moving everything I have over to one of them.
Fun fact, both do sync your Goodreads data if you want when you set up your account.
Interesting. But yeah, I just hate Goodreads. Honestly, I wish I was a better person at how to do with Jeff Bezos, but it's just a glitchy app and I feel like the search function works really poorly.
It does.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would love to use something different, but I know myself and I know that I am not capable of using more than one app. So we'll see what I decide.
Quite frankly, I'll probably keep using all three just to see where they go. All my friends are on Goodreads. If I want to see what friends are reading, I have to stay there. So that I feel kind of stuck right now. I love the analytics side of Storygraph. I've been doing that for a couple years now. And then Fable, I started early. No one was there. I didn't like the app. It has come a long way, so I'm gonna give it a chance. Because I'll just quickly go in and be like, I started this book on all three real quick, and then I'll go in and be like, I finished this book all three. And Fable gives you really pretty graphics, wrapping up your like month and year, and I like that.
Yeah, I will say also, I have a Kindle and you can automatically share and finish a book through Kindle to
Amazon
Goodreads.
runs our lives.
Yeah. And so I can never truly get rid of Jeff Bezos because I have a Kindle.
True.
So I feel like Goodreads is here to stay for at least now. Maybe I'll consider doing one or the other Storygraph or Fable.
Well, that's another thing is a lot of people are moving from Kindle Unlimited and Audible to Libro FM, which I have not done. I kind of am a creature of comfort and I do what I do. So
I have not even heard of whatever that is. So
Booktalk
I'm
Girly?
out of it.
It gives credit to small business bookstores instead of Amazon when you read books.
That's nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next, this is sort of a TikTok viral game, which we have actually been doing for a long time. So I'm very proud of us because we pretty much always, because the point of our podcast is reading hyped books, we always do like most overhyped and like most like lived up to the hype successfully books. But the sort of TikTok version is overhyped, appropriately hyped, and underhyped. So have you guys put any thought to what you would make your nominations for those categories out of our past year of books?
If we're going easy grab, House of Flame and Shadow leading up to its release was so overhyped. I think everybody agrees with us there.
Big agree, yeah.
Yikes. That book did not live up to the hype.
No.
Also, Spare Like,
Oh my God.
Way
yeah.
overhyped.
yes, it's like in every bookstore on every prominent display. It like won freaking awards. I was like, oh, that's crazy.
I think both Emily Wilds are appropriately hyped. I
I
think
agree.
they follow exactly what they should be.
I mentioned Caraval. I think that's appropriately hyped also. I know you guys haven't read that one, but that's one that I see a lot and I'm like, yeah, that was worth my time.
Also, The Maid and the Women, overhyped for me.
Overhyped. Yeah.
Yeah. Big overhyped. I think
Fifth
go on.
season, underhyped.
I was gonna say The Will of the Many, underhyped.
agree on both of those. Both very underhyped. Red, White, and Royal Blue, overhyped.
Yeah, sorry.
Fair.
A Fate Inked in Blood, kind of overhyped.
Yes.
I agree. I think The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, appropriately hyped.
Appropriately hyped. And I'd put Demon Copperhead in that category too.
Yeah, appropriately hyped. I agree. One Dark Window, I think, underhyped.
Very underhyped.
It's starting to get more hype.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've noticed it a lot more in recent weeks. So it's starting to reach appropriately hyped, but I think it has been chronically underhyped for the past few years.
Something I read, I'd say appropriately hyped if you're a rom-com girly, Icebreaker. If you're just looking for a good little smut,
Icebreaker is
appropriately hyped.
That was like my first hockey romance a couple years back.
Interesting. I also think Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, appropriately hyped.
Yeah.
Games
God's Play, overhyped.
Overhyped. Yeah.
Abby Jimenez, underhyped.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the Summer is one I read this year. I love her. She needs more hype.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna say Butcher and Blackbird, underhyped, but I'm not on TikTok, so maybe I didn't see enough of the hype, but I loved it. I mean, it was one of my 5 stars. So
I'd say it depends on the audience. It was appropriately hyped to me.
So I would say for that one, there is a very weird side of book talk now that has like, the only time I ever see Butcher and Blackbird is when it is significant others doing their explainers of what they're reading to their other significant others. So it's like women being like, so he's a serial killer, but he's a good serial killer. And he's got a sexy Irish accent and he will save you and kill for you. And like, it's very funny stuff. That's when I see Butcher and Blackbird come up, so that the shock value of their fiancés or husbands going, what are you reading now? We listen and we don't judge.
Yeah, definitely that trend.
Yeah.
I'll give you two more
underhyped.
Two more cozy ones. The Spell Shop, overhyped.
Yeah.
And the Pumpkin Spice Cafe that was all over Book Talk, overhyped. I'm sorry.
Damn. All right. My Year of Rest and Relaxation, overhyped.
Overhyped.
Very overhyped.
That was way too much for that book. I'm sorry.
Okay, so another TikTok trend a couple of creators have been doing, which is sort of savage, but I wanted to bring it to us, is rewrite, reread, or burn. So it's kind of like FMK, but for books. And I picked a few from our podcast list I thought would make interesting books to talk about. So first one, rewrite, reread, or burn, The Hurricane Wars.
Rewrite for me.
Yeah, rewrite. It's not quite a burn, but it's a rewrite.
Rewrite. Yeah. Bunny.
Burn.
Reread.
Burn, baby, burn.
Reread. I love it.
I know. House of Flame and Shadows.
Rewrite.
I'm almost thinking burn.
I'm gonna burn it. I'm gonna burn it, unfortunately. I think we need to start from scratch on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Bride.
Burn.
Reread.
Reread.
Yeah, burn it.
The Will of the Many.
Reread.
Yeah. Yep. A Fate Inked in Blood.
Burn.
Rewrite.
Yeah, fair.
Assistant to the Villain.
Reread.
Rewrite. Yeah. The Future.
Reread.
Burn.
Reread.
Burn.
Oh my God, no, Caitlin.
What the River Knows.
Reread.
Rewrite.
Ooh.
Man,
There's
I'm
something.
gonna say reread. Actually, I'm not
Okay.
gonna rewrite it. Yeah.
I like that book. I just think it could be better, you know.
Yeah. I agree.
The Women.
Rewrite.
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 Yeah.
The
The
game's
game's
God's
Play.
Burn.
Rewrite.
Rewrite. I didn't say reread, see? Even though I gave it 5 stars.
So see, but part of this for me is like, how much do I like the idea?
Yeah. Rewrite.
Because I think the game's God's Play is a really good idea. I just didn't love all the execution. And so, right, it's like about more than just enjoyment.
Mhm.
It's like, is the
Okay.
idea there?
You've convinced me. I'll say rewrite instead of burn.
Okay, last one. My year of rest and relaxation.
Burn, baby, burn.
I'm going to say rewrite.
I'm going to say rewrite too. I like the idea.
Mm-mm.
All right.
That one you're not convincing me on. It's a burn for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Well, now per usual, we have a list of awards. So like favorite book art, best plot twist, etc., etc. And we're going to give out awards from our like read list this year. So
And this
our
is
first
from any book we've read, not just podcasts, correct?
yes.
Yes.
First one up is a one I love. Best cover art.
Okay, mine's tied. And it's it's 2 podcast books, but one that has not been introduced yet.
Wait, can I guess what you're going to say?
Yeah.
When the Moon Hatched?
Yes. It's a very pretty cover.
It's so pretty.
And then What the River Knows. I like both of those covers a lot.
Yeah.
So I really, really like the new Throne of Glass series title, like covers. So the new ones, I think they're all beautiful. The old ones were like horrendous, but the new ones are really good and very beautiful.
The old ones scream like 2014, 2015.
Yes. Also, a book I hated, but a book cover I love is A Fate Inked in Blood.
Yeah.
It's a good cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to throw out Vampires of El Norte. I really love the cover of that one.
I also love the cover of The Maid. I feel like the cover is actually why I wanted to read it, because it looks so like traditional but modern mystery and intriguing.
Also, if we're going like kind of memorable covers, like James and Yellowface both have very like standout covers. I think.
They do. I also really liked The Song of Achilles. I feel like that has like a very artistic, beautiful cover.
Also, Butcher and Blackbird, you can pick it out on a shelf anywhere.
Also,
and now it has a sprayed sparkly edge version because Hannah bought it.
Oh my God. Of course. Also, for a minimalist, The Future.
I do. I think there's an argument for The Future. Okay. This is one of my favorite questions, but it's, was there a book this year that surprised you?
I'm trying to think of a lit fic that Casey made me read that I actually enjoyed.
I think something
have to have enjoyed it.
I think something we will all agree on is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory.
Yes. Also a great cover. I feel late shout out.
Also true. Yes.
No, that one did really surprise me. I actually think, not necessarily in a good way, but my year of rest and relaxation surprised me. I feel like it did not at all go in the way I expected it to go. And I'll also throw out there One Dark Window. Partly just I think it was just a lot better and more inventive than I expected.
I would also say for me, Demon Copperhead, I think I ended up loving it so much more than I really thought I would.
I agree. I'm also going to throw out In the Dream House. I really enjoyed that book.
Oh, How to Lose the Time War.
Ooh,
yes. The Time War. Yeah.
Super surprising.
Yes.
Also a beautiful cover.
Yeah. Man, the cover game this year, especially now all the books coming out with sprayed edges.
Yeah.
So smart.
That's Fourth Wing's fault, first of all, the sprayed edges trend.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it.
Right.
I'll spend the extra money. That's fine.
Okay. What book did you pick up this year that you think is the least popular?
I mean, we all know what ours is. It's the when we talked to Bethany Finger, her book.
Yeah.
But let's put that one aside and just kind of look at other books that we don't think have been hyped up enough.
Wouldn't say hasn't been hyped enough, but I read Beth Moore's memoir, and I don't think a lot of people are really reading that, but growing up in a Southern Baptist family, church community, her memoir and kind of how she ended up leaving the Southern Baptist church was really interesting to me, but I don't think a lot of people are reading it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, we do read so many popular books.
Yeah.
I mean, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. That's another one.
Yeah, I would probably say that one just because it's a little off the beaten path.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe also like the Jasad Air or the Hurricane Wars are two fantasy books that I think kind of like faded to the background compared to others.
Yeah. I like the Jashad Air a lot, and I think book 2 is coming out very, very soon. So
yeah, and the Hurricane Wars book 2 just came out, and that one's pretty popular on TikTok.
Yes. I'm gonna shout out The Witch's Heart. It is a book that I got in a Barnes and Noble like secret book cover thing where they give you like a list of things that if you liked this book, and in this one was if you like Cersei, and I'm like sold. So it's basically Cersei but for Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Which is very, very fun and very, very interesting. And it follows the events of Ragnarok. So the end of the Norse gods. Super good. And I don't think enough people are talking about it nor reading it. So The Witch's Heart.
Okay, I did realize I have another one that's probably better. So I read this book called The Book of Form and Emptiness. It's by Ruth Ozeki, who is a pretty like famous author, and I read a lot of her books in college as part of a class, and I really liked them. And so I just like randomly saw her latest book at a bookstore and picked it up and bought it. And I really haven't seen it anywhere. It's a very, very lit fic coming of age. So there's a reason why I haven't recommended it for the podcast. But it's about this kid who has sort of like I forget the right word, but he has OCD mixed with sort of like some sort of like psychological disorder that makes him see things. He has like OCD and schizophrenia or something like that. And so inanimate objects are like alive to him and try to talk to him. And so his world is like super, super loud. So it's a really intriguing concept. And I did like the book. It's a little too long and too slow and too cerebral, I think, to be widely marketable, but it was good. And I don't think I've seen it anywhere else.
That's fair. I read a book about climate change that I had in his arc. Addison arc. It's called The End of Eden, and I really liked it, but I have not seen it literally anywhere.
Right. Okay. Favorite nonfiction of the year?
Mine's Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Another lesson from the crematorium.
It has to be. It has to be. Yeah, there's nothing else I can even think of.
Sorry,
to say.
that's it.
No.
Yeah.
The only other one I read was Spare, so
not Spare.
Obvious winner.
I read several nonfiction, and I still say that's the winner.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Chose correctly for the podcast, y'all.
Right. That was me. I want everyone to know. I picked things people like too.
I've had it downloaded for years because I heard it on a different podcast.
Well, whatever. I'm still taking credit.
Okay.
Is there a book that you are embarrassed you read this year?
I'm learning to not be embarrassed by books because, everyone likes what they like. But the one that I would probably consider. So here's the thing. I was a fan fiction girly growing up. So I read a lot of really terrible fan fiction growing up. So I sometimes read books that I know are going to be bad and it's okay. So I read The Wrong Score like a couple of weeks ago, and it's a hockey romance between the coach and a journalist. Mm-hmm. And it is smutty, spicy, and it's candy. Like it's trashy candy, and I loved it.
Guys,
But also,
I read thousands of pages of the Zodiac Academy.
that's embarrassing.
Okay,
Yeah.
they are pretty hyped on TikTok. Just saying, by a
I'm well aware.
certain audience.
Overhyped, underhyped, or
They
appropriately
have
hyped.
some merit, but very little.
Right.
So overhyped.
Yeah, probably.
Mhm.
They're also steamy. So, but like
Right.
the books towards the end are all like 800 pages. I've not finished the series, but
Right.
also
Isn't one
they
like
do them-
1,200?
Yeah, I think the last one is.
Oh my
Jesus.
god.
Also, though, I will give them credit. They do the hard thing. They
Good for
have
them.
killed off main characters.
Hey, I love that.
Pissed me off. So like they got some balls.
Right. Well, that's good. I'll be honest, Spare does embarrass me. It's popular enough that it's not that bad, but I remember telling my coworkers I was reading Spare and they were all like, why?
Reading
Also,
Spare and Red, White, and Royal Blue in the same year is wild.
yes. Yeah. Also though, kind of good companion reads.
Yeah.
Worked out well.
In a way. Yeah. The other one I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, y'all, but Bride.
I knew you were going to say it.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say
Bride.
No.
And part of the reason is because you guys know how much I hated the weird sex thing.
Okay, well, I didn't like that part either.
I know. But it makes me uncomfortable that when it comes up and people know I've read it, they know I've read that part. Like, I don't like knowing if people in my life like want to read Wolf Smut or not. Like, I don't want to know if you've read that scene.
Nodding.
Nodding.
Hey,
Yeah.
you read it for the podcast and we read trending books. We can't help what's trending.
I know. It's just like, it's this weird, awkward thing. And I know.
Coming soon, Ice Planet Barbarians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. But I know a girl who like loves Bride, is obsessed with Bride, and every time she talks about it, I can't help but think about the nodding, and I'm just like, ew, stop. Okay.
Also, Casey hates Allie Hazelwood, so
I
Yeah.
do, just in general. Book with the best busy girl rating. I assume we have a chart for that.
we do.
Our statistician, Caitlin.
Straight busy girl 5s for James. Straight busy girl 5s for 7 days in June.
That was a good one, yeah.
That was
Straight
good.
busy girl 5s for Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. And that's it for this year.
Wow.
Three books that I would say are all pretty deserving of straight 5 busy girl ratings.
We were stingy on the busy girl ratings this year.
We were.
We gave a lot of 5s, just not all at once.
It's hard to win all three of us over.
Yeah,
but those were correct.
They were correct. I stand by all those for sure. Okay, so what book that we read would you recommend to someone trying to get back into reading? We just mentioned it, so it's on my mind. So I'll go ahead and say 7 Days in June. I thought it was like a great, really interesting romance which had depth to it, but it wasn't depressing, and it was also sort of like fun and light, but there was still that depth to it. So I feel like that was like a really engaging book that is like kind of exciting.
I think.
Go on.
I actually think One Dark Window is a very great duology, and I think it's less time consuming than other series in fantasy, and I think it can get you back into reading in general because it's not going to take up your life.
I think Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I think we talked about that when we did the episode. Well, we talked about it, I think, in the episode that like that's a really good gateway, like not quite fantasy, but kind of fantasy. I'd also say Book Lovers. I think a lot of people have re-engaged with their love for reading with Emily Henry rom-coms, specifically Book Lovers.
Yeah, I loved Funny Story. So, yeah.
Right. I'm also going to say Immortal Longings. Because
Really?
yes, because I love I guess we should preface this by maybe what gets someone back into reading.
Okay.
And to me, it's like reading something that's really new and exciting. And it reminds you of what it's like to read something that's like really inventive and creative.
Okay, true.
So like to me, Immortal Longings really filled that hole because it was just such a unique universe.
Yeah.
And the 5th season did the same thing for me.
See, I was thinking more like easy reads to slide back into reading, which is why I picked the ones I did. But you're right. You are right. They're refreshing.
Right. That's why the 5th season is like not on my list. Like maybe for a very specific person. It did it for me, but I have a very specific type of thing I like.
I mean, The Will of the Many.
Yeah.
I was in a fantasy slump.
Right.
Yeah. I actually have one that was given to me in a book exchange, Year of Wonders. It is a very good Geraldine Brooks novel, and she was up for the Pulitzer for her other book, Horse, and I think she lost out to Demon Copperhead. Could be wrong. Don't know. But Year of Wonders, it's pretty short. It's a very interesting book about the plague, and it follows one woman in a small town in countryside England as they grapple with the plague. And, you know, post-COVID, didn't know if I was going to love this book, but actually it is more hopeful than you think. And I think it follows a very interesting story about a woman getting power in a time where women were very, very powerless. So
did you get that on the book swap on our trip?
Yes, I did. So Anya, shout out Anya. You did it for me.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Book with the best plot twist. I'm going to throw out early the 5th season because I think that one had the most interesting plot twist I've read this year.
Valid.
Yeah. I don't know how you beat that one, honestly.
I'm going through, I'm trying to remember all the good twists.
I know, I'm looking. Immortal Longings had a pretty solid twist since you brought that one up.
Yes.
Yes, it did. I think The Future had a great twist.
Yes. Caitlin, you just don't like that book.
Yeah.
The Will of the Many. I still don't know what happened, but there was a twist.
There was a twist.
Yes.
James Islington, please write faster.
Right. Surely SJM, like Empire of Storms is crazy. I can't even remember. It's hard for me to remember which book was which, but we read some Throne of Glass this year that had good twists.
We read a fair amount of Throne of Glass. What the River Knows.
Yeah, What the River Knows had a pretty good twist. Very interested in that ending. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue kind of has like the undefeated twist, though.
Yeah, you're right.
What was the twist?
I mean, you should cut this out because it's a huge spoiler, but she ends up like committing, like leaving that man that she was with and then committing to like be the devil's like partner.
I didn't see that as a twist. I saw it coming.
Whatever.
Sorry.
Okay. This is going to be a controversial one, but worst book you've read this year.
Oh,
okay. So I can tell you for a fact I had 2 1-star books this year. Can we guess what they were?
Well, one of them's My Year of Rest and Relaxation.
Yep. Yeah.
And then the other one's probably Bunny because that was my 1-star as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I did
Bunny
have
was
a couple
mine.
2 stars, but yeah, those were my least favorite books this year.
Bunny and Spare.
Right. I'm like, what books did I hate? I'm going through my list. Road White and Royal Blue, honestly, like is the one that sticks out in my head. I think the Fate Inked in Blood was ultimately my least favorite. One. Actually, Spare. Spare was I think Spare was my only 1 star. I had a handful of 2 stars. But yeah, I don't know. Some of the romances that we read are just like not my thing. I ended up really not liking Red, White, and Royal Blue. Just for like other reasons. But Spare, I think I'm gonna stick with that. That was my worst one.
Okay, on the opposite side of the spectrum, what about maybe your top 5 3 to 5 favorite books you read all year, podcast or not podcast.
I already mentioned my non-podcast one, which was Year of Wonders. I think that's my top non-podcast book. But for podcast, I mean, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes has to be up there.
Yeah.
I did like Immortal Longings, but I think I actually ended up reading that. No, I did read that this year. Okay. Demon Copperhead,
Uh-huh.
The Future, I really liked.
Nope.
I really liked When the Moon Hatched. I don't know if y'all will enjoy it as much, but it was a 5-star for me. I'm excited to talk about it in the future. Shout out. And James. I loved James.
I would say The Will of the Many, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, One Dark Window, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, and Demon Copperhead. I don't know how many that was, but those were probably my favorites of the year.
So I think I actually read Bunny last year, so I'm going to leave that one out for me. I also read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue last year. So that makes it a little bit easier because I did love those 2 books. But I think for me, the 5th season, Chain Gang All-Stars, and James were like definitely my top 3 fiction. And then, so Smoke Gets in Your Eyes obviously was like great nonfiction, but also In the Dream House was really, really good. And we didn't shout it out, I don't think, during the nonfiction part, but both of those 2 books, I'm like just really glad I read this year. I think that's like my top 5.
Solid top 5s. A little overlap, but not a lot. Okay, well, now it's time to put forward some nominations for our podcast book of the year. So think about some of the ones we just said. And this is not just going to be our favorite book, but it's going to involve the Busy Girl rating, the quality rating, its popularity, its accessibility for all types of readers. And so it may not be what you expect, but do you guys want to throw forward some nominations?
I'm going to throw forward Funny Story, Emily Henry, and Book Lovers, either or. Emily Henry.
I'm going through the list.
Ooh, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies.
I think Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. I think Demon Copperhead.
Yeah.
And then maybe 7 Days in June, actually.
That's solid. I would like to throw in The Will of the Money. I love that book. Yeah, I don't know. I think you guys kind of hit the rest of them, I would say. Because not some of the ones I really love are also just ones that not everybody would like.
Right. R.I.P. to the 5th season. I love you, baby girl.
I feel like
or like This Is How You Lose the Time War, you know?
Yeah. I do feel like we have to knock out Demon Copperhead because it's not going to be a Busy Girl rating high.
I think it's easy to read, though. That's my argument for it.
Oh, did we want to throw in One Dark Window? Did someone say that?
No, I don't think so. You can throw that in.
For it. One Dark Window. Sorry, I'm trying to highlight everything we said so that we can discuss. Not James. Did we say James?
I would say James, but
I don't think it's popular enough, though.
It's pretty popular, but it's not my favorite, and I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so I right now have down Emily Wilde, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, The Will of the Many, Demon Copperhead, Funny Story, One Dark Window, Book Lovers, and 7 Days in June. You said Demon Copperhead from the Busy Girl rating.
Yeah.
I sort of agree there. It's pretty long.
I mean,
even though
phenomenal book. But
One of my
for a
all-time
busy
favorite
girl,
books.
but for a busy girl book of the year, I don't know if we could give it that.
And it might kill my beloved Will of the Many also.
Yeah, that would be my argument for that one too.
Yeah.
My argument against funny story is that I feel like none of us actually liked it that much. Like,
yeah,
in comparison to other books, like
Not
Book
my
Lovers,
favorite.
we all liked more than Funny Story.
Yes, I agree with that. I forgot that Book Lovers we read this year because I read it the year before, so it's not on my list.
Right.
Yeah.
Book Lovers is definitely the better Emily Henry.
Okay, so we've got Emily Wilde, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, One Dark Window, Book Lovers, and 7 Days in June.
I don't know if 7 Days in June is popular enough.
Yeah.
Does it have to be that popular? Like, because, okay, so One Dark Window is not that popular.
It's
Smoke
pretty
Gets in Your Eyes is not that popular.
No,
Smoke
One
Gets
Dark
in Your
Window
Eyes
has
is
gotten
not.
popular. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, I think we have to drop, unfortunately.
Even though I feel like every year we end up with like a memoir
Yes.
as our favorite. This one, if we're talking about books that linger, that one's it for me. But
Yeah.
I understand not everybody wants to read about cremation. So Emily Wilde, One Dark Window, Book Lovers, 7 Days in June.
But I'd make the argument that 7 Days in June is not popular enough to win.
Okay. Book Lovers, One Dark Window, Emily Wilde. Okay. That's tough. Out of these three, for me, it would be between Emily Wilde and Book Lovers.
I was going to say One Dark Window and Book Lovers, but I understand the Emily Wilde.
I just think One Dark Window is a little more high fantasy-ish, and not everybody's into that, but I could be persuaded.
I don't know. I also think like not everyone's into romance and not everyone's into cozy fantasy. So I think no matter what, you're in a niche.
True.
My number one is One Dark Window. I think it would be good to award a book that's like on the rise. My argument against Emily Wilde is that I remember feeling like the world building wasn't that good. I know it's only book one and you guys have read book two and I haven't, but I don't know. It was just, I remember it being really sleepy and slow.
I liked the cozy, sleepy, slow.
Yeah.
Really, I love all three of these books, so I'm not mad either way.
I think I would give it to One Dark Window of all of them because I think it's a book that's on the rise. It's gaining popularity and it kind of, all three of us enjoyed it, which is surprising for a fantasy book.
Well, I know, like, my friend Caitlin, who's been on the podcast, she kind of got back in fantasy via that way, via One Dark Window. Here's a question for you, though, to seriously consider. Do you have to have read both?
I haven't read both.
Okay.
I mean, I think you should read both.
I think paired as a duology, yeah. I think alone, I don't know.
I think the second book's so much better than the first book, but it is longer. But I would argue that One Dark Window, if you're reading the first one, you're gonna read the second one eventually.
Clearly not, Casey.
Casey, I feel like she will.
Big lack of time issue.
Yeah.
And not Book Lovers. Emily Henry, well loved.
We can do like what we do for our our 1 year anniversary, and we can do like 1, 2, 3, and then
you two have already both voted for One Dark Window, so
yeah, me and Catherine both vote One Dark Window number one.
I'm fine with that.
Book Lovers is my number 2 personally.
I would say Book Lovers number 2 and Emily Wilde number 3. So
I'm outvoted. It's fine.
Yeah. Sorry.
I would say Emily Wilde, Book Lovers, One Dark Window. So, but I love all three a lot.
Yeah, all good busy girl books.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was easier than expected. Feel free if you have thoughts on that to let us know if we were wrong. But there you go. What about, are there any books we didn't hit on in this episode that you want to talk about as we kind of start to wrap up 2024?
I'll always take time to shout out Madeline Miller, so Song of Achilles.
Yeah.
That's fair. I just read that like 2 or 3 years ago.
I do think the books that we read earlier in the year are at a disadvantage because we kind of forget about them. And not forget about them, but they're less like in your mind.
I do think we had a stronger end of year though.
We
I
did.
do too. Actually, looking at the full list, like a lot of my like really highly rated books came in the last half of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we finished strong.
Yeah, we've kind of hit on all the ones that I really just loved.
We haven't really talked about Yellowface, but we had a really interesting discussion about that book. And we all really liked it, ultimately.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely not for everyone, but yes. Also, shout out to Assistant to the Villain.
Yeah.
Those books are like so cozy to me. Yeah. I love those books. And the next one is Associate to the Villain. So you'll catch me reading them all. I know that's not everybody's thing either, but they're so cute and cozy.
I'm going to read them all for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
New Year's resolutions. I know my resolution is pretty much the same every year because I never achieve it, but I would like to read a little bit more nonfiction. There have been some nonfiction I've thought were interesting, and just it's really hard for me to prioritize reading nonfiction over fiction because I just generally enjoy fiction so much more. But as we've displayed on this podcast year after year, a great nonfiction book can really topple all the rest, right? Like, I think every year of this podcast, we've had one nonfiction that really kind of dominated our favorite list. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I need to give more nonfiction a shot.
My resolution is to read more books that I already own instead of when I have free time to read a non-podcast book, getting excited about whatever's new and trending, and to actually read some of my physical TBR, which we all know is a struggle. And there is a lot of nonfiction on my shelf that I want to get to that I've collected on like trips to national parks and things. So I would also end up reading more nonfiction if I did that.
There you go.
Yeah. I think read more next year. I'm hoping to get more now that I've settled into my job and settled into my new apartment and my life is a little less chaotic, ? Hoping to read more in the new year. And yeah, I kind of want to get out of fantasy a little bit and get into more historical fiction because I've always loved historical fiction, but I've never prioritized it. And I think I should start reading more because I really do. I'm a history buff at heart, and I've always liked any historical fiction you give me, especially if it's about strong, independent women.
Right. I want to talk about a resolution I achieved, which was to force y'all to read more litfic.
You achieved it for sure.
I actually feel like I got a lot of my top desires into the podcast this year, which you guys probably regret, but I had a really good time.
I do not regret it. Also, I told Casey, this is funny because there's not a lot of people on Fable and most of them are fantasy readers. However, Fable told me I was in the top 10% of litfic readers and I was like, this is your fault.
Yeah, it's 100% your fault. I'm not mad at it. Some of them I didn't like, but I'm glad I read them, if that makes sense.
If we didn't have the podcast, I would just be reading fantasy and romance. So
yeah,
I appreciate the diversity in my reading.
Right. Also, I feel like we really forayed into romance this year.
We did.
Mm-hmm. We really had not read much.
It was my top genre this year.
Right. Just like straight romance novels. And I'm kind of proud of us. It's not my genre. It's still not my genre, but I'm proud that we kind of expanded this year.
And it was a diverse
genres.
Yeah. It was a diverse set of romance. Like it wasn't just like straight cookie cutter romances.
Right. No. We did a lot. I think that's good.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Here's to another year.
Speaking of the new year, are there any books you're excited for that are coming out or that are just coming up on your TBR that you want to read?
I mean, quite literally Onyx Storm, January.
Well, yeah, given. Yep. And then on that strand, I'm excited for the next Emily Henry and the next Assistant to the Villain.
I think allegedly the next ACOTAR is supposed to come out this year. Could be wrong.
I'll believe it when I see it. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. It is the author of One Dark Window. I'm excited to see what she brings us in the form of not that duology.
I want to follow up with some of my favorite authors this year. So Kelly Link is one of my favorite authors, and she writes fairy tale inspired lit fic. And then of course there's the author of Bunny, and the author is Tender as the Flesh. And I feel like I do I'll read a book by an author and I really love it, and then I don't really follow them as authors, and I feel like I'm interested in reading an author and then kind of developing an understanding of their ideas in their books and seeing where that takes me. I feel like you get an interesting reading experience because we're all obsessed with SJM, and we know what it means to read SJM, and we see her development as an author because we've read all her books. And I don't know, I just think I want to make sure I keep up with some people who have written some of my favorite books.
On that strand, there's new Emily Henry and new Abby Jimenez coming, and those are the romance authors I prefer, so I'll be excited about that. Also, on a side note, the Plaza Barnes & Noble had a signed edition of Tender as the Flesh, and I was so close to buying it just for shits and giggles.
Oh my goodness.
God, I would have been so jealous.
But apparently it's popular enough they have signed editions, so something's happened there.
Oh, if you're into horror, it's kind of the gold standard, so.
Yeah.
All right, well, we would love to hear more from you guys. The books you loved this year, the books you hated this year, the books you would like to see us read more of, or the genre we should read more of next year. I forgot to say, I would love to read more science fiction. I'm realizing I'm kind of a science fiction girl, especially science fiction written by women.
Will I finally get them to read Project Hail Mary this year?
I think you might.
You might.
Maybe finally do it.
Well, because I think the movie's coming out soonish.
Guys, this is one of my all-time favorite reads. I want them to read it and love it so bad.
Well, we've also are finally far enough from the pandemic that I'm learning to love pandemic fiction again. And It took me a while to be able to stomach pandemic fiction.
We needed a mental health break.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe we need to throw in Station 11.
We'll see. But yeah, if there's anything else you guys think we should read, let us know. We will fit it into our schedule. If there's just more genres that you want to hear more of, books that you're curious about, yeah, send them our way. We'll read them for you as we always do.
We do need some nonfiction recs too, memoirs or whatever.
Please do.
I would love that. So yeah, you can send us directives and opinions at Busy Girls Pod pretty much everywhere. You can find out more about our book recommendations at busygirlspod.com. And please rate and review the podcast 5 stars.
Yeah, I think that wraps this up. And with that, I'm Catherine.
I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Casey. Thanks for listening. And when you get a chance, take a break with the Busy Girls Book Club.